The XRP community is full of some of the most wild price predictions. I've seen everything from XRP hitting $100, $1,000, and some people even say a $10,000 XRP isn't crazy, it's actually conservative. Heck, back in the previous bull market cycle, there was a consensus in many communities that XRP would reach $589, which has now become a meme, which has led CEO Brad Garlinghouse to give a subtle nod to the meme by also following 589 people and literally leaving it there. And in all fairness, why wouldn't XRP perform really well? It's faster and tens of thousands of times more energy efficient than Bitcoin. It's got institutional support, being adopted by legitimate banks, has legitimate utility, and is now positioned to take advantage of the fact that it has a truly transparent ecosystem stablecoin called RLUSD, which now has a license to operate in New York, the greatest financial center in the world, and will soon have complete and total regulatory clarity under the Trump admin as one of the greatest US-based crypto and technology companies the world has ever seen. So I can see why people believe some of these price targets. But what's true? What's realistic? When will all of this go down? And how do I come to my conclusion and a realistic price target? Well, if you haven't already watched this video titled Ripple XRP will hit $100 in 2025, a realistic XRP price prediction, I actually cover and explain how market cap is simply a representation of the total on paper value in a market based on actual supply and demand, which is the only thing that makes a product worth something. If it's really cold and we're out in the dead of the winter, the person making and selling blankets is going to be making far more money than the person selling refrigerators. Why? It's not that one is actually more valuable than the other, but in that moment, it's far more in demand, which is going to drive the price up. Well, it's the exact same thing in markets, and it's the exact same thing in stocks, and it's the exact same thing in crypto. If a crypto fails to move, even with very positive news, then that is going to reflect in the market cap because there is less demand. And on the flip side, if there is more demand for something, that will also reflect in the market cap. You can take $1 billion, toss it at something, and that will increase the market cap by multiple billions of dollars on paper. However, that doesn't always include liquidity. Still, at the end of the day, the bigger a market gets, the harder it is to move that market. In other words, yes, market cap matters. That's like saying in a human body, your limbs don't matter because you don't actually need them to survive. However, I think it's a moot argument. They are simply a part of the body, and a body without them truly isn't complete. However, if you disagree because some of the posts you've seen online and want to feast on hopium, then be my guest, and please disregard this video and the one right here. But if you're a student and hungry to learn how to properly find a future price target, then stick around because I'll cover how I reach my conclusions and why it's realistic based on a few different factors. Also stick around because I'll also be covering price action and some on-chain indicators in order to help you make your best or most informed decisions about what to do next with your portfolio. So as always, my friend, if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777. And if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe. Hello and welcome back to the channel, Bull Runners. If you're new here, my name is Paul, and you can find me on Twitter or X at PauliDeFi, PauliDeFi. Not gonna lie, that got me pretty freaking hyped. I think they did a really good job with their new brand design, especially as they move into this next chapter with some actual regulatory clarity. And so we're gonna cover a few pieces of news that are quite exciting before we dive into a potential future price and when that could happen. Now, just in a previous video that we made, we were talking about how it could potentially be some major news when the SEC acknowledges some XRP spot ETF filings, otherwise known as 19B4 filings, to which Brad Garlinghouse responded, "This was essentially inevitable, that under a new pro-crypto administration, it's likely that eventually they're going to have to deal with it because Ripple and crypto are not going away, especially when you have major global players and countries like the United States now adopting Bitcoin and creating a reserve here in the near future, and then virtually every single state will jump on board as well, and that doesn't include all of the other nation states around the world. So when you have a legitimate reserve of Bitcoin, it's likely you're also going to have a reserve of other crypto assets. This is further proven by the point that according to solid intel, the SEC is now signaling a path to end their Coinbase lawsuit, and that's because consistently Coinbase has proven that regulators have not played fairly and then were even caught lying about what they said to the FDIC in a new revelation according to some appeals that were made in unredacted documents, so much so that even the SEC is likely going to drop cases involving fraud with Coinbase and Ripple. And in this document from Cooley, it says reports also suggest that the SEC is now drafting new, more supportive guidance and considering how to scale back or completely drop crypto cases that don't involve fraud. And it's obvious that Ripple has been playing a clean game so far and simply spent way too much money and time with the SEC and other major players like Coinbase as well. And this explains why so many people are now filing for an XRP spot ETF. They want to be one of the first into the field, as the New York Stock Exchange ARCA has officially proposed a rule change for a Grayscale XRP trust to turn it into a spot ETF. Grayscale's XRP trust would gain access to the NYSE ARCA, one of the biggest US exchanges and arguably one of the biggest in the world, if the filing is approved. Now, that said, based on all of this news, the price of XRP did pump pretty hard from about 248 all the way up to about 283 upon the acknowledgement. However, that's not a big enough pump to say that markets really, or insiders, I should say, really know what's coming. However, I do believe they are preparing, considering the price action on XRP and this move looks stronger relative to the majority of the market. If you were to take something like XRP and pin it against a market leader like SUI, you can see that SUI rose as well, but is actually dumping into this price action and failing to break for new highs, whereas something like XRP is consistently rising. And actually, XRP is looking pretty dominant alongside Bitcoin. The rest of the altcoin market has consistently been getting destroyed. However, the top performers are XRP and Bitcoin right now. And so this begs the question, how high could XRP actually go? Well, I'm not going to have an argument surrounding market cap this time around. You can believe whatever you want to believe about it, but like I said, you can go watch that video on how market cap is simply a representation and less of something that should matter. And we're just going to focus on the reality. We're going to focus on the facts. And I'm going to show you how I come to the conclusion of XRP gaining another $22 for an 815% move from today's price of about $2.78. Now, I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility, but the real question is, when will something like this go down? Well, we're going to dive into everything I know about this type of a move. Now, really quickly before we do, head on over to bullrunners.com to check out Altcoin Pro University. This is your one-stop shop to become an absolute killer in crypto. Whether your goal is to become a crypto millionaire, or to retire your family or mom, or simply look for a way to invest into the future of blockchain. We provide all the right tools, training, and resources, and obviously we can't guarantee you any results because you do have to put in the work and effort. However, we have 1,200 paying members to be here, and the reason is because we provide bar none some of the best value in the entire space. Not only do we have 100+ hours of courses and classes that you can take on your own time, we have live calls with professionals that show you how they operate inside of the markets, especially when it comes to DeFi. In other words, you can put your crypto to work for you if you're already sitting on it in order to earn yields. Or airdrop alerts. This is literally free money for using your crypto in different ecosystems. We teach you how to do technical analysis and fundamental analysis like a pro, and our pros even share altcoin with picks with you that sometimes 5x, 10x, and even 50x. Now, again, there are no guarantees that we're going to get any type of return, but we have tons of community members that have taken advantage of that and multiplied their portfolio. And so if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and go to bullrunners.com, watch this 26-minute video. It should answer any questions you have, and get started sooner rather than later, because every single day you wait is a day that you could be missing out on the next major altcoin pick that our pros and team share with you, so you can stay ahead of the curve, stay ahead of the market, and actually earn more returns this bull run. But if you miss out on that play, that might be one of the best plays that we're going to see. And I believe that there's an old phrase in crypto that says sell in May and look away, and it's actually just an old market phrase. And the reason for that is because typically in May, the markets really take a summer lull, and they don't really do that much anyway. So every day counts up till May, and already we're in halfway through February. So head down to bullrunners.com. I look forward to seeing you on the other side, and let's get back into the video. So this cycle, I definitely believe we are going to hit those upper ranges of between $7 to potentially even $11. The real question is, could we hit $25+? Well, the reason I get to this conclusion and target is based on average history in terms of performance. Now, history isn't always the best indicator of what's going to happen in the future, but it gives me a realistic place to start. And again, you have to remember that back in the day, it was a lot easier for cryptos to pump when there was less noise and less cryptos to take advantage of. This means the majority of interest and liquidity went into cryptos like XRP at far smaller prices and market caps, easily making it pump far harder. And although it still outperformed the majority of major market cap cryptos, it will become harder because there is this thing called the law of diminishing returns. The bigger a market gets, the harder it is for it to move. It's a lot easier to go find $1 million for a market than it is $1 billion. That money's typically tied up in all sorts of different areas. And so the bigger the market gets, the harder it is for that crypto to pump. Still, someone like BlackRock's CEO Larry Fink thinks Bitcoin's going to hit 700K. And we already talked about this in a previous video, but again, for those of you guys who have not watched it, we'll remind you, let's listen to what he says.
As I became a student of crypto, it was very clear to me that crypto is a currency of fear. And that's okay.
To some extent.
Yeah, but that's okay, because if you're frightened of your debasement of your currency, or you're frightened of your economic or political stability of your country, you could have an internationally based instrument called Bitcoin that will overcome those local fears. And so I'm a big believer in the utilization of that as an instrument. And so if that becomes true, and you see that it could be a proper hedge against maybe hope security or equities.
Yeah.
The question is, could you see a 2 or 5% allocation? I was with a sovereign wealth fund during this week, and that was the conversation. Should we have a 2% allocation? Should we have a 5% allocation? If everybody adopted that conversation, but it would be 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 per Bitcoin.
And that's not all, folks. Let's listen to what Pantera Capital's CEO Dan Morehead says about Bitcoin, and then we'll relay this all back to XRP.
You bet your life it's not going to zero?
I used to tell people it could definitely go to zero to try and be, conservative. I don't think it's possible now. 50 million people in the U.S. own it, 300 million people globally. BlackRock and Fidelity are selling it. Like it really has reached escape velocity.
But you're 745,000. I mean, I heard 13 million from Michael Saylor the other day.
I think it can go. It's going up 3 orders of magnitude since we launched our fund. I think it could go up a fourth, and that puts it at 15 trillion market cap, which it still seems relatively small versus 500 trillion of financial assets. That's doable.
In other words, basic economics tell you that in order for a market to grow, more money needs to flow into it. And by the way, you wouldn't have someone like Larry Fink over at BlackRock or Dan Moorhead over at Pantera sharing these types of price targets if they were truly just insane. When they share something, typically it's very conservative. However, it's something they've done deep homework and research into alongside their very well paid and highly traded teams. So that said, thinking a 15 million or $1 trillion market cap for something like Bitcoin is realistic makes sense. Now, when we're looking, and again, this is the future. However, we're currently looking at a $3.36 trillion market cap, where the majority of that, about $2 trillion, and I'll get it out of the way right here, is sitting in Bitcoin. We got $1.93 trillion. Then if you look a little bit further down, you've got XRP sitting at about $160 billion, which means the majority of the market dominance or money in all of crypto is sitting in Bitcoin. And so if this thing went up to $15 trillion, how much of this total market cap in crypto would be in everything else, and arguably in XRP? Well, luckily we don't have to assume. Right here, I have the market cap Bitcoin dominance percentage. This is the average percent of all of the money that was in Bitcoin at any moment in time. In other words, right back here on Monday, January 8th of 2018, I'll even zoom in a little further, you can see that Bitcoin accounted for about 36% of all the money. In other words, when this thing declines heavily, the majority of money is flowing into altcoins. When this thing pumps heavily, even if the entire market's in a decline, it means that Bitcoin is dumping less than everything else. So the majority of the money is in Bitcoin. Generally speaking, we've seen dumps, we've seen pumps. We saw a dump in this entire year. Since November, actually this last entire bull market cycle, since January of 2023, the majority of money has been flowing into Bitcoin, and that's because of institutional order flows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an anchored VWAP from the very top of this range. When we really start to have a lot of this choppiness was when the majority of altcoins came into being. In other words, back here in 2017, the majority of the money, 96% of it, was in Bitcoin. Since that point in time, we've seen a lot of choppiness, but that's where I'm going to take an anchored VWAP. Not going to explain it, but this gives me an average volume weighted price. And the average amount of money in Bitcoin throughout this entire lifespan of virtually every altcoin is about 54%. Okay, you can see right here, 54% of all of the money in crypto is typically in Bitcoin. So we can reasonably assume whether the Bitcoin dominance rises or declines, on average about 54% of the money in crypto is in Bitcoin. Why does this matter? Because now we can take this number, let's say a $15 trillion market cap, and come up with a market cap of all of crypto in the future. When 2 to 5% of sovereign wealth funds enter the crypto space, a lot of that money will find itself into other cryptos as well, creating demand and driving the price up on everything, and that would include XRP. And so here I have the market dominance of XRP, which since basically November of 2024 has consistently risen from these lows right here. Really interesting how a 1% market dominance, or being 1% of all of the money in the market, XRP pumps and rallies pretty hard. Probably a pretty good time to buy. Now on the highs back here, we saw XRP be about 24 to 25% of the market. But again, this was when it pumped and rallied to its basic all-time highs relative to the rest of the market. And so realistically, we'd see an average price somewhere in the middle. And I would argue that's between 6% all the way up to potentially even 8%. But I'm going to go with the conservative target, and I'm going to say that XRP would be about 6.5% of all of the money in the market by the time Bitcoin reaches a $15 trillion market cap. So let's assume now we have all of this math, okay? We understand one thing. Bitcoin is likely likely going to hit at some point in time, maybe not 13 million like Michael Saylor, which is an insane bull case, but a more conservative case of like $750,000. Now, if Bitcoin is at $750,000 at, let's just assume, a $14 to $15 trillion market cap, then that would put the rest of the crypto market at about $28 to $29 trillion. In other words, if XRP was 6.5% of a $28 to $29 trillion market cap, what would the price of XRP be? Now, the final variable and factor that you have to think about is the fact that not all of the money not all of the tokens in circulation, or better yet, the max supply, are currently circulating. Right now, we have about 57.8 billion tokens circulating. The rest of this supply, or 99.9 billion tokens, are currently sitting in an escrow. Okay, not all 99, but whatever 99 minus 57 is. Now, why is this not the max supply? Because there is some sort of a burn mechanism when they do transactions. However, it is really freaking small, which is why sometimes it actually helps to go and look at these Q4 reports, or better yet, quarterly reports from Ripple. This is the Q4 report. And as you can see here, on September 30th of 2024, directly from ripple.com, they basically made a note of the fact that they held 4.436 billion tokens. The rest, 38.9 billion, were in escrow. Then, in a single 2-month period, you can see about 900 million tokens were released to Ripple. And notice right here, they are sitting on a few more tokens. However, where did the other tokens go? Well, it doesn't look like they were added to the entire supply. They might have been sent and sold on some exchanges. They might have been given as in terms of OTC orders for major banks and other players. But this is very transparent right here. So if you really wanted to do the math, you're more than welcome to. And matter of fact, I would even recommend you check out xrplexplorer.com. From there, you can actually find the XRP distribution. You can look at their wallets and you can see, are they sending money? And as you can see here, 2 months ago, right here, their last transaction was active, and it shows you the exact date on December 21st of 2024. So looking back at that Q4 report, you can see that they did something with whatever was here when they released more of those tokens into the supply. So it's safe to assume, and I don't want to lose any viewers here, that yes, they are going to eventually sell some of these tokens into the open market. Why? Because Ripple is a company. Their largest asset is XRP. This 4.4 billion tokens is equivalent, okay, now we're sitting on almost 5 billion tokens, to 12 to 13 billion dollars. This isn't money they're just going to burn. The only burn that's really happening is a small portion of the fees that are transactional. In other words, let's just say I was going to pay a 1 penny fee and I do a transaction. Then a portion of that XRP that's used will be burned. But that comes from me for doing the transaction. And ultimately, it's good for the supply as there is more demand and there are more transactions on the ledger. That being said, a company like Ripple would genuinely be foolish to go burn their own money and supply, which would allow for them to eventually go public one day and become a larger company with larger opportunities. So with all of this to say, here is my point. Okay, we've done the math, we know the homework. What I'm trying to say is this circulating supply at 57.8 billion tokens will eventually grow. That I can promise you. I would bet a lot of money on it. 2 years from now, you're going to look at this and say it likely went up. It's not going to go down. Eventually, the whole supply is going to be circulating. However, if they sold all those tokens right now, there simply isn't enough demand to eat it up, which means the price would go down. Why would a company want the price of their largest asset to go down? So they'd be foolish to sell it all, but they will likely sell bit by bit by bit into major demand and new all-time highs. So my personal opinion is we are likely by the end of this bull run and potentially into the next 2-3 years going to see at least 70 billion tokens in the circulating supply. Hence why I did the math here. I actually went ahead and asked GPT to do all of this math. If Bitcoin Bitcoin hit 750K. And by the way, I explained this in a previous video, but I really wanted to dive into it. And let's assume Bitcoin is at a 54% dominance in terms of market cap. Now let's assume XRP rises to a 6.5% market dominance. To which I ask, if XRP rose to 6.5 market dominance, and it was, in other words, 6.5% of all of the money in a market, while Bitcoin is at 750K, let's just assume all things remain equal except for the fact that more XRP tokens enter the supply in the market up to 70 billion tokens, what would all of this be? Well, then we got an actual answer. If Bitcoin hit 750K, we'd have about 14.85 trillion, and it's very similar to a Dan Moorhead or even a Larry Fink conservative prediction. So again, we're being conservative. That would make the total market cap of all of crypto about 27 to 28 trillion dollars. XRP, if the supply remained the same, would be about $30 a token, but my ultra conservative target would be closer to 25.56 per token. And that's how we get a price target of $22 up from here for 25.56 for an 815% gain. Now, what's so beautiful about that target is if you were to take a fib scale directly from the previous all-time high to the major low right back here after the lawsuit when it dumped to about 11 to 12 cents and take the top down to the bottom, you could see that on a fib scale, the 1618 range pumps up to $27. And again, depending on how clean you are, it can be $26, but generally speaking, this would be a pretty good target. So between $25 up to $27 seems pretty realistic for an XRP into the next major move. Now, the real question is, would this happen now? Well, personally, I don't believe Bitcoin is going to hit $740,000 to $750,000 this bull market cycle. It might be another 4 to 5 years minimum before Bitcoin rises to that price, which means in that time frame, we might see a lot of volatility. We're going to see some pumps. We're going to see some dumps. We might see XRP pump up to that $8 range like I've been talking about, right over here. Then we'll see it dump and range for quite a few years before making a new range high into a breakout into that 1618 range for a $25 to $27 XRP. So if I were to draw this chart out, it's going to be a little while, folks. I'm looking to take some profits this bull market cycle, okay? And eventually, maybe into 2020, 2032, or even earlier into 2028, 2029, we might see it. But at the end of the day, these types of moves take quite some time. As you can see, we saw it back here. This was a 6.8 year, and I'll go ahead and remove all of those drawings. This period of time from the previous all-time high back in 2018 till present day where we broke to the same range high was a period of, oops, I grabbed the wrong tool. Let's go ahead right here and drag, was a period of 2,527 days or 361 weeks. This was 6.8 to 6.9 straight years. If we were to assume that it would take another 6.8 to 6.9 years by the end of this bull run, or at least into July, okay, we're looking at quite some time, guys. We're looking at 2032 before hitting that range. Now, is that possible? It could happen sooner with all of this mass adoption, but let's not pretend like we know what's going to happen. So I'm being very realistic about this price target, but it actually might not happen until 2030 to be fair. And so, folks, for that on-chain data, and the last thing that we're going to cover in this video, things are looking really good. As you can see here from the local lows of 48 to 50 cents, a lot of folks were depositing XRP through that purple line onto exchanges. This is typically indicative of sell pressure. However, since the point in time when XRP pumped up to $1.11, which was a new multi-year high, XRP has consistently been withdrawn from exchanges because institutional players know what's coming next. Now, yes, you're going to get some choppiness like we do right here, but generally speaking, since we've been hanging out in these ranges for new all-time highs up to $3.40 and today's current price of $2.77-ish, XRP has consistently been withdrawn from exchanges and held off of exchanges because people want to hold XRP more than they want to sell it. This is indicative of more a supply crunch, which hopefully when we get more demand is going to drive drive the price up further. So yes, this is looking very bullish. We're consistently trending up. Here was our major low of the range. Here's our next high, and our next low came in higher than the previous low right here. This is a textbook uptrend with less supply available on exchanges for people to buy. Everything is looking really good for XRP right now. And like I told you in a previous video, I've been consistently accumulating in that $2.40 range into some new moves. And I am currently holding and accumulating even more right now. So thanks so much for watching the video. And if you learned something new and enjoyed, be sure to head on over to the Bull Runners channel and subscribe, and also head to bullrunners.com to check out Altcoin Pro University, because like I said earlier in this video, that type of value is bar none some of the best in the space, and every single day you wait is another day you might miss out on an altcoin pick that could help you to maximize your profits through the rest of this year. And not only that, just be an educated investor in crypto. So if all you want to stick with is something like XRP, we offer the right tools, training, and resources for you to become a pro in crypto in Altcoin Pro University. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'll see you in the next video, my friend. Goodbye.